stars on your right, beyond surpass, nothing to pass, prison walls break, old guns away. Madness will reign, terror and pain, woes without end, where they extend.
Blue sky way up on high, there in the night, stars now are right.
They will return.
I'm wearing one of my Cthulhu shirts because I've been watching a lot of the Cthulhu carols on YouTube lately. And it's funny how existing religious traditions will be taken over and adapted to an incoming religion. And certainly that has been going on in Christmas too. Here in Dallas, the First Baptist Church of Dallas, I think they're called, has decided that on top of their imagined culture war, they also perceive some hallucinatory war on Christmas that they blame on secularists and non-believers, and for the most part, as far as I can tell, most of us believers don't really think about or care about. But it's in the news, and we wanted to bring it up. My wife and I are having a conversation about this. She wants to remain anonymously off camera because the reality of the situation is here in Dallas, it would compromise her standing in her career if she were outed as an atheist. So we'll turn to my wife talking about the First Baptist Church of Dallas.
Okay. It's kind of ironic that I'm not speaking on camera because the reason why organizations like the First Baptist Church of Dallas are successful in vilifying atheists is because a lot of atheists don't speak up for themselves. So in their absence, these groups are able to attribute to them all kinds of atrocious things like warring on Christmas and being responsible for the decline of culture. If more atheists spoke out, they would see that most atheists and secularists and non-believers are just like any other person. And that just seems like it should go without saying that we shouldn't have to justify ourselves. But it's just, there's kind of a parallel with the gay rights movement that the more gay people came out and showed them that they are just regular people, the less they were able to discriminate or stereotype them. And I think if more atheists and secularists and non-believers came out, they would see that we're just like everybody else.
You know, every year we talk about the war on Christmas. And instead of sitting around and lamenting about it, why don't we try to do something positive about it? And I had this idea to start this website called GrinchAlert.com that would allow people to go onto the website and call out a business that was bowing to the pressure of political correctness and not acknowledging Christmas and put them on the naughty list, or to call out and commend many businesses that were recognizing the uniqueness of the holiday and put them on the nice list. And I thought it would just be a fun way to make a very serious point that Christmas is unique. Well, I thought it was fun. Not everybody shared that idea. And I tell you, this has caused more of a controversy than the Muslims or the homosexuals or anything else that I have talked about in the last few years. And in some ways, I wasn't surprised. I mean, I expect the atheists, the unbelievers, the infidels to be that way. You know, I realize saying Merry Christmas, putting up a Christmas tree isn't going to get anyone into heaven, okay? I understand that. But I also believe, and I put this in the same category as I do working to keep In God We Trust on our coins, saying prayers at public meetings, allowing the 10 Commandments to be displayed in the classroom or in the courtroom. None of those things is going to save anybody. But I believe our nation overall is going to be healthier as a nation with a public acknowledgement of God than we are if we allow the secularists, the atheists, the infidels to remove any mention of God from our public arena. And that's why I'm doing this.
For example, let's take a look at the naughty list. Now, this one refers to Delta Airlines. The comment is, though I'm a frequent flyer with Delta, they did not mind offending me, a Christian, with an email stating, "Happy Holidays from the Delta family." Imagine the offense at being told to have a happy holiday. How is it to be considered offensive when a major company like this sends out a standardized email to any of its customers without first inquiring which religious groups they may or may not belong to, and simply suggesting that they have a happy holiday, whichever holiday they celebrate. How is being fair and aware of somehow offensive to these few Christians that are implying to this?
Here's another example from the naughty list. A customer went to the Wells Fargo Bank in South Garland, Texas, which happens to be coincidentally the bank we bank with. Their comment is, "Sorry to say this is my bank. While cashing a check yesterday, noticed only happy holidays on the walls. I asked, 'Aren't you posting Merry Christmas?' They smiled and said, 'No.' I asked, 'Are you on the naughty list?' They just smiled as I walked away." There is kind of a passive-aggressive, I don't mean to say threat, but if you don't say what I want you to say in your business, then I'm going to put you on my naughty list. It doesn't seem as like it's the intention of this activity is totally just to be fun.
We're just providing the forum for people to discuss this whole issue.
Gosh, if I could just talk about Mikochina again for a second. We had the graphic up there. They say that they're unfairly being targeted. The staff is instructed to say Happy Holidays, but they point out that they feed 600 children every year at their Snowball Express, which is for the children of fallen warriors. So for somebody to put them on a naughty list seems a little incongruous.
Well, and again, that's everybody's right of free speech and free expression. But I said actually to one of the owners of Mikochina who called me, he said, "You know, I'm a Christian and we do all of these wonderful things in the name of Christ." And I said, "Well, why don't you say Merry Christmas then?" And there really wasn't an answer.
Yeah, all right.
For this group, the meaning of Christmas, the reason behind the season, is for everybody to publicly acknowledge Jesus. But if you look at the history of the celebration of Christmas had fallen into decline for hundreds of years after the Puritans and under Oliver Cromwell recognized that the Christmas holiday had a lot of pagan elements, like the Christmas tree and the Yule log, and they disassociated themselves from it. During the Victorian era, after Charles Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol, the celebration of Christmas was revived. People started singing Christmas carols again and erecting Christmas trees. And what the meaning of Christmas was for Charles Dickens, as he describes in A Christmas Carol, through the character of Scrooge's nephew Fred, was that Christmas was a good time, a kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time, the only time I know of in the long calendar of the year when men and women seem by one consent to open their shut-up hearts freely and to think of other people below them as if they really were fellow passengers to the grave, and not another race of creatures bound on other journeys. Charles Dickens said that this was he called this to the end of his life his carol philosophy. And the meaning of Christmas for him was a time to think of other people, even people below your social station, as fellow passengers to the grave, and to be charitable. And that's what a lot of atheists can endorse that in non-believers. And a lot of non-believers use this time to be charitable as well. And that's what the reason for the season should be. It shouldn't be forcing people to acknowledge your religious beliefs.
Actually, the reason for the season is axial tilt. But Charles Dickens, as I understood it, was supposed to be an atheist himself, and that's probably why his story, Christmas Carol, is one that I find so endearing, because it talks about the importance of the impact that you make on the people's lives around you. The important matter there wasn't eternal punishment or reward. The important message that I carried away from that story seems to be that what matters most is the impact that you make on the people whose lives you affect. And that I have made very much a part of my philosophy.
A recent consumer magazine showed that 91% of Americans celebrate Christmas. So in many ways, John, it's the most inclusive thing a person can say. But we certainly recognize that there are many different faith traditions out there, and that's wonderful. But we also recognize historically there's something unique about Christ's entry into the world at Christmas. After all, think about it. For 1,200 years, we have measured time, our calendars, in terms of the birth of Christ. Every time headline news puts the year 2010 on a graphic, you're saying it's been 2010 years since Christ came into the world.
This is why we get so upset about the miseducation of religious people. I mean, I've met people who believe that Jesus was born in the year 0. I mean, but it wasn't. If you compare historic documents to the Bible, what you get is that Jesus' time of birth was supposed to be simultaneously both before 4 BC and after 6 AD, and that he couldn't have been born in the interim because the conditions that the Bible described didn't both exist at that time. What was the other thing you mentioned?
I would much rather go into a business that was owned by a person of the Jewish faith and hear Happy Hanukkah than I would Happy Holidays, because at least that person is embracing their faith.
All right, so this guy won't get offended if a Jew says Happy Hanukkah, but he will get offended if someone who is aware that there are multiple holidays being celebrated during the season, if one of us, if a non-believer or a believer in any of these other religions, makes no judgments against the person that they're talking to and simply wishes a happy holiday. That, for some reason, being conscious of other people's perspectives and opinions and beliefs and considerations, is somehow offensive to those who demand special attention as the dominant religion of the land at the moment. That is bigoted, right? But what if you are Muslim and you say Happy Ramadan? What if a pagan says Happy Festivus or Happy Yule? Would he even know what a Yule is? I get the impression that he probably won't. I don't get offended when I'm being told to have a Merry Christmas. I'll tell other people to have a Merry Christmas. It is a holiday celebration. I can follow it under that name if I have to, but I don't have to acknowledge any sort of Christian deity or influence or importance or promote one religion over any other. It's just a celebration that we have adapted from previous pagan celebrations, and we've turned it into something else. It's like Halloween. I know that what Halloween is today is not what it started out as. And I know the horrendous history behind the first Thanksgiving, too. What a terrible atrocity that was. But that's also my favorite holiday. Certainly not because of how it began, but what it has become and what it means to me. When I was a little kid, I was told that you don't appreciate what you've got until it's gone. And I remember thinking, how stupid is that? It's so important to me to appreciate what I have while I still have it. And so that's what we do. When every Thanksgiving, you have the kids around for the feasting table, and we all talk about what it is that we've got going on in our lives that is good, something that we can be happy about, something that we would be thankful for if we had someone to thank for that, but just what we appreciate about our lives and our friends and our families and our situations, and take stock of what is good in your life. I mean, if you're lucky enough to live in a time of cell phones and search engines, with the means or money to eat and enjoy, and you're lucky enough to live in a place where there is peace enough to be with family and friends who matter most, you should celebrate all of those things, regardless what label they want to put on it. I'll celebrate any holiday you give me if it grants me that opportunity.
Okay.
And we want your opinion. Are you a Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays person?
Humbug!
So, just so that I can get on the Grinch list where I've secretly always wanted to be, Happy Holidays from the Roz.